Hello, I'm Danette Hopke with UW-Madison Division of Extension. And on today's Parenting Behind the Behavior, I'm going to talk about the connection between the thinking and the emotional areas of the brain and why knowing more about this is so important as we parent our children. When we teach our children to use their thinking brain, we empower them to gain control over their thoughts and behaviors, as well as to become effective problem solvers. One tool that I find so successful when teaching about the emotional and thinking areas of the brain is Dr. Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. We start with our hand in this position. Just under the thumb and to the base of our hand is the brainstem, or it symbolizes the area of the brainstem. This brainstem is critical to many of our life functions, including breathing and temperature control. This part of our brain is considered to be the oldest and the first to form during development. The brainstem is also responsible for the signals that tell us that we're hungry or that we're full, or our desire to meet our basic needs and for survival. If you've ever heard of the fight, flight, or freeze responses, the brainstem is in control of those instincts. Our wrist and arm extending below that symbolizes our spinal cord, which feeds our neural signals throughout our body. This includes how our arms and our legs know to stand still or to run like crazy. When you curl that thumb in, it's resting in the area of the brain that symbolizes something we call the limbic system. Now hang with me. I know this is starting to sound a little sciencey, but this is really interesting and important information. The limbic system works in cooperation with the brainstem and adds in the factors of emotion. Remember again that brainstem controls those automatic responses, and our limbic system layers on the thoughts and emotions that we have about our experiences. Dr. Siegel calls these emotions. Basically, these are the thoughts or feelings that put us into motion, moving towards things that we perceive as good and away from things that we perceive as bad. The presence of the limbic system is also what causes us to be able to form relationships and connections to others or things. It's a fun fact that reptiles do not have a limbic system, but dogs, cats, and even rats do have one, and that's what allows them to become attached to us or to each other. Remember again, when you think limbic system, think big and powerful emotions connected to our fight, flight, or freeze responses. Now, we need to curl our fingers over the top of that limbic system to symbolize our cerebral cortex, or the thinking portion of our brain. This area of the brain is responsible for logic, imagination, and the combining of experiences and abilities into very precise thoughts and actions. When you think cortex, or those fingers, remember big thinking portion of the brain. One thing that's important for us to notice is that as our fingers or that cortex are curled over our thumb, they're touching. And this is because they're working together. When this happens, these three areas of the brain are all, again, working together, our thoughts, feelings, and actions in a very productive way. It's so important for us to know that even really young children can understand the concept of the hand model of the brain. So now, we know that this blissful state of our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors for our children is not always what they experience. Those big emotions or that limbic system are very powerful. And when those emotions get too big, we experience something that Dr. Siegel calls flipping our lid, or our children flip their lid. What happens here is that that thinking part of the brain is no longer connected to that emotional part of our brain. And who do you think is in control? If you said emotions, you're right. So when we are parenting and our children have flipped their lids, their emotions are in control. And it's important to know what we can do to move that thinking brain back into place. It's also important to know that when the emotional brain is in control, there is no learning that can happen. So as adults, we should not use these emotional moments for teaching or correcting behavior in our children. Instead, we need to ride the wave, ensure their safety, while keeping our own thinking brains in place. If both of us end up in our emotional brains, often parents say and do things that they regret. And as adults, we too can benefit from understanding this ourselves and remembering that when our emotional brain is in control, we are not thinking logically, creatively, or able to problem solve. When we can notice ourselves and strive to get our thinking brain back in touch with our emotional brain, we can ensure that we are parenting with our hearts and our minds.